I'm so glad you're here today. You have a doctorate in chemical engineering. It's my understanding that most natural gas pipelines, and we talked about them, are not equipped to ship blends of methane and hydrogen where the hydrogen component is greater than 20%. Could you please explain to all of us how a conventional natural gas pipeline differs from a pipeline which is capable of shipping blends with more than 20% hydrogen?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator Barrasso. So hydrogen, being such a small molecule and corrosive, can create cracks and attack imperfections.
Are stimulus checks going to be sent out immediately? I know many of you are wondering what's the status for fourth round of stimulus payments. Well, new information has just been released, everybody. I know many of you are hoping for another round of enhanced child tax credit law this year passed by congressional lawmakers. However, you might live in one of the many states making plans to send more money to families between this year and 2023. The last monthly child tax credit payment was disbursed in December, with the final check arriving after parents filed their tax returns this year. There is a Republican Senate proposal that would send up to $350 per child and includes a work requirement. The proposal from Mitt Romney will restart monthly payments for millions of people. But unlike previous stimulus efforts, Romney's plan, which is officially known as the Family Security Act, could put the work requirements in place for millions of recipients. The Family Security Act will provide monthly benefits of up to $350 a month for families with children 0 to 5, and $250 per month to those with children ages 6 to 17. The maximum monthly payment for families would be $1,250, and expectant parents would be able to apply for benefits to begin 4 months prior to the child's due date. In a statement, Romney said his act creates a new national commitment to American families by modernizing and streamlining antiquated federal policies. The biggest element of Romney's plan is the inclusion of work requirements for payment recipients. Details on the exact requirements were not included in the plan, but a common threshold for a state-level benefit is 80 hours a week a month, or a comparable amount of job training or volunteer work. Romney's staff said the legislation is subject to negotiation and is not finalized. And Governor Ned Lamont also announced that this weekend the state will deliver a one-time back-to-school crisis relief benefit of $257 per child to more than 15,000 low-income Connecticut households. Known as the Emergency Assistance Fund, the special benefit comes as $7 million federal grant through the American Rescue Plan. Eligible households include those with children who receive benefits through this temporary family assistance program during May 2022, or who received SNAP benefits and had no countable income during the same month. The majority of payments will be delivered to the recipients' electronic benefit transfer cards, and the state also mailed letters to recipients notifying them that they will be receiving this special one-time benefit. Governor Lamont explained that his administration is timing the release of these special benefits to coincide with the back-to-school shopping season and the start of Connecticut's sales-free tax week.
That lead to metal embrittlement. So the solution would be, short of what was already discussed about potentially recoding existing networks, but for existing infrastructure, the solution would be for natural gas, to have hydrogen, you would want either a different carbon steel or you would want it to be thicker, or both.
So what would be the impact then in the cost of constructing, from conventional natural gas pipelines versus a pipeline that does all the things that you just described?
So the cost difference really depends on the size of the pipeline and the pressure. So often a number of 10% higher is used, but NIST did a great study that was published in 2018 that said that depending on the pipeline size and the pressure of the pipeline, that cost would range from 10% up to almost nearly 70%. So it's certainly non-trivial.
So Mr. Powers, as someone who supports all forms of energy, including hydrogen, it's clear that we need and want private sector investment to drive hydrogen development. I understand private sector investors may want more certainty about regulation than they have at this early stage. At the same time, excessive regulation hurts industry development. So what can you talk about that balance of, and what kind of attributes of economic regulation would help the development of hydrogen infrastructure?
Hyperbole. Matt's the chair of the powerful subcommittee that controls the funding for public safety. He knows what it means, investing in effective and accountable community policing that builds public trust and strengthens public safety. I'm old enough to remember when cops used to walk the beat in Wilmington and in Scranton. because they knew everybody. They knew the kid. They knew if something was trouble. They knew whose house to go and knock on the door.
There are new eligibility requirements that lawmakers have agreed on. The new requirements have to be met by Americans in order to be further eligible for stimulus checks. Here is some big news. Residents of 13 states who receive debt forgiveness from the federal government for their student loans may need to pay some state taxes on their forgiven amount. And according to analysis by the Tax Foundation, loan forgiveness is generally considered to be equivalent to income and is therefore taxable. Analysts have said that the American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion package that Joe Biden signed into law, exempts the forgiveness of student loan debt from 2021 to 2025 from federal income taxes. States that follow the federal government's lead will exclude debt forgiveness, but not all states do. Biden has already announced the federal government will forgive up to $10,000 in student debt for individuals making less than $125,000 per year, and up to $20,000 for those who received a Pell Grant, meant for students with the largest financial need. The states where residents may need to pay taxes on the forgiven debt are Arkansas, Minnesota, Hawaii, Kentucky, Massachusetts, New York, and just to name a few, South Carolina. Experts have also calculated the highest rates that anyone could potentially pay in each of these states for having $10,000 forgiven. All of these states could require residents to pay several $100s in state taxes on the up to $10,000 in forgiven debt. Hawaii residents, for example, could potentially have the highest tax liability at $1,100. The taxes will be higher for residents who receive $20,000 in forgiveness. States will likely have to issue guidance in the coming weeks and months on how to treat the forgiven debt. But states will need to act with some urgency if they plan to make changes to their tax laws ahead of debt forgiveness into effect. Now, Connecticut is offering financial relief to residents who were essential workers during the crisis. Lawmakers have created two programs already, like the Premium Pay Program, to distribute over $60 million in funds. Applications for both are now open, and the Premium Pay Program, which launched in August with $30 million in funds, provides certain bonuses to frontline workers from the private sector only. The Essential Workers Crisis Assistance Program launched in January with $34 million to help frontline workers by reimbursing a portion of lost wages or incurred medical costs because of the crisis. Currently, essential workers can apply to recover a portion of the wages they lost, up to $1,500. If you're eligible for this relief, make sure to apply and do it quickly. The Agriculture Secretary has also announced that $700 million in competitive grant funding will be available through the new Farm and Food Workers Relief Program to help farm workers and meatpacking workers with crisis-related costs. The program will provide relief to farm workers, meatpacking workers, and the grocery store workers as well. The president of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union told Yahoo News, while the rest of America could work from home, these brave men and women continue to show up for work every single day to ensure that we all have food on our table.
Good morning, sisters and brothers, members of the media, and distinguished guests. I'm Ron Herrera. I'm the president of the Los Angeles